All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. Hello, George. Hello to everybody watching. I got two things to say. Great week for Bitcoin. Horrendous week for the Bitcoin miners. Horrendous. And I'm going to go through what happened this week. I'm going to show you what happened Monday, Tuesday through Thursday. For me, I'm just going to say it right off the bat. And, we get these stretches, so I don't want to, hyperbolize about it. But this could have been the worst 4 days in my recent memory for Bitcoin miners. And Tuesday in particular, Bitcoin was off straight to the moon, and simultaneously, the Bitcoin miners were crashing. And I'll look at a 15-minute, really a 5-minute period where that started. Somebody shorted 10 of the Bitcoin miners pretty much simultaneously Tuesday morning, and Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners diverged. So hopefully your portfolios are diverse, because Bitcoin went way up. A lot of the altcoins went ballistic. The Bitcoin miners on Monday were out of this world, and then it was just absolute, in my words, absolute garbage the rest of the week for the Bitcoin miners. So that's not a long-term outlook. It's just a statement in what I believe to be fact. What do you think, George? Bitcoin miners is yes. There are few that have a great influence. Let's get to Midway, who gave us a super chat and who is a member. Thank you very much, Midway1. BitDeer had a great week. True, we're going to look at everybody's week to date. BitDeer won the week by far, finished up 24%, and at one point was even up 51% on the week and made a new high for 2024. It might be worth watching BitDeer for entry after its earnings call on Monday. So thanks. Midway's been pointing out BitDeer for a little while. BitDeer did beat everybody by the end of this week. Most of the Bitcoin miners finished red on a week that was one of Bitcoin's best weeks in the history of Bitcoin, and the miners were red. So I will disclaim, but I will use the word, whatever you want to call it, market manipulation, market movement by large players. This was unnatural activity for the Bitcoin miners. George's question is, are the Bitcoin miners dead money? So first, I'm going to ask everybody, if you could please smash the like button. It would be a huge help for the live stream in real time, and it's a big help for the channel. So we got 21 likes. We're going for 100. We've been getting 200, more like 200 lately. So if you could do us a favor, if you would be so kind, smash the like button. Now I want to get to Sourmelon Gaming, who is a longtime member, and thank you for the super chat. Tom, better be planning for a 100K celebration stream. Definitely. And that could come at any time. I mean, we're in knocking distance. You're going to see a new purple line that should be on your screen. This is our new all-time high that we hit on Tuesday as the Bitcoin miners were crashing. Bitcoin was off to the races, over $93,000. We're over 91,000 still right now. So, I mean, we are knocking on the door for some big numbers. 100, that's, as we look back in history, that's going to be one of the big, numbers to cross. So it feels like we're close. We'll see what happens in the short term, but, by the end of the year, it just feels like we're there, but we got to wait for it. We'll see. I'm gonna put your poll up, George, because this is one of those weeks where it feels like what you just said. Yep, I hear you now. The people can't hear you? Let me put in the comments if you can hear George now. I got nobody in the comments yet. can't hear George. I might have to go get tech support because you're... Hold on. Let me see if I can reset this on my own. I'm not... I'm testing my mic. Okay, so I'm on yours. Let me...
Uh-oh.
Okay, how about now? You should be able to hear George. I might have just fixed my first technical problem ever.
Maybe, yeah. Hey, can you guys hear me now? I've changed my name to King George. No, Edmund says no.
Edmund says no. Well, how can he answer you if he can't hear you?
I don't know. Maybe you get yes. There they go. He got me. He got me.
Good one, Edmund.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I said I've changed my name to King George.
All right, welcome to Talkin Investing.
Aha, Barry C., who's been a member for 26 months, more than 2 years. George, any truth to the rumor that you're giving away one free channel member for every % that XRP is up this week? Tom, HUT is the best miner. I dug through their financial statements. We can talk HUT today. I know I abandoned ship on HUT. They have a different business model. The Bitcoin mining's not necessarily what's happening for them, but they are the one Bitcoin miner so far. Most of the Bitcoin miners lost, somewhere between $20 million this quarter and $500 million this quarter. So I had said, going into earnings seasons, this was going to be the worst quarter for everybody. But here's the thing. HUT actually broke even. They made, I think 1 penny per share. So they're in the short term, what they're doing, while Bitcoin was at lower prices, Bitcoin averaged around $61,000 for the third quarter. At that price, what HUT was doing was working better than the Bitcoin miners. I suspect in the fourth quarter, you're going to see a reversal. Having said that, HUT does seem to have something going here, a business model that, I don't totally still understand, even after going through what their recent report they just put out. I didn't read every line of every single report because everybody just put everything out. Whoa. George, 50 memberships. Thank you, George.
What? This is 50?
All right, welcome to Talkin Investing.
So, Barry, I guess there is truth to the rumor. So welcome to all the new members. There should be more on the way.
All right, welcome to Talkin Investing.
All right, we're at 44 likes. Let's do it. Let's do this thing. George just gave out 50 free memberships. So anybody, if you would be willing to please smash the like button. It helps us out a lot in real time. In what was, some of you probably had a great green week, and some of you probably did not. This week was super disappointing for me personally. This is a week I thought I would hit, a new all-time high in my account. And, after Monday, I really thought that, and then things went the other way. So I'm going to ask George's question way back to 10 minutes ago.
All right, welcome to Talkin Investing.
It was my best week ever. Even with
I'm going back to the first question that you asked me. Are Bitcoin miners dead money? So who here is giving up? Who here thinks that the Bitcoin miners, after, a week... Now, today's board happens to be pretty much green.
All right,
Bit Digital was down 2.5%. CleanSpark rallied. It was red all day, right until there was a nice push starting a couple hours before close. And Bitcoin ran up. The Bitcoin miners finally went side by side with Bitcoin. So, we were green almost across the board. And I'm gonna go back to Monday while we do this, and then I'm gonna show you where we went from Monday to Friday. So I saved a copy of the big board from Monday. So if you take a look, this was just Monday. And to put this in perspective, I'm going to go back to the
All right,
chart.
welcome to Talkin Investing.
This line right here, this was Friday. So we closed last Friday at $76,000. Then we closed Monday at $87,000. So this gold line that you see up here, we closed Monday at $87,000. We got up to 93,000. We're now at 91,000. So you can see we had, Bitcoin had an awesome week. It had a great Monday. And, so here's Monday's results. Marathon was up basically 30% on Monday. Marathon, which is the largest by market cap. CleanSpark, I think, is the third largest. They were up almost 30%. Double digits all over the place. Riot up 16, Iron up 16. Core Scientific and TerraWolf lagged behind on Monday. But we've talked many, many times about the fact that, the company, those two are in first and second place year to date by a mile.
All right,
and so on days like this, people look for opportunities in the smaller market caps. BitDeer up 26% on Monday. HUT up 25% on Monday. BitDigital up 26% on Monday. MicroStrategy up 25% on Monday. So Monday was one of those days that was like, this was one of the great days for Bitcoin miners. So to sit here on Friday, after a Monday, this is how our week started. So when you see how, and I'm sure everybody knows you lived it, when you see how this week ended, like it was just a disaster from here as Bitcoin continued to run to crush its previous all-time high. The Bitcoin miners went the other way. So first, let me get to CleanSpark to 50. Thank you very much for being a member. Thank you very much for the super chat. Tom, has MicroStrategy, MSTU, MSTX, a black hole taking away money from buying miners? Live stream, the day breaks 100K, wear an orange shirt that day. I have a couple of Bitcoin shirts that I've never, ever worn in my life. I don't know if they fit me, but I'll see. Or I may have to go buy one. I know MicroStrategy's market cap is huge. There's so much money in the market, and all these companies, even MicroStrategy at $70 billion. All
right, welcome to
Obviously, that's a lot of money, but there's multi-trillion-dollar companies out there. So I just don't think that I don't think this has anything to do with the ETF stealing from the Bitcoin miners or MicroStrategy stealing from the Bitcoin miners. I think this has to do with some very big player in the market Tuesday morning decided they were going to absolutely short every single Bitcoin miner, and they did it basically simultaneously and tanked them all. And it was, and you could see it happening. You could see, somewhere like 9:50 or 9:52 in the morning, Tuesday morning, Bitcoin was going straight up, 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 up the rest of the day. And the Bitcoin miners, all of them had the same exact line. Just from that minute to the end of the day, straight down. The volume for every single Bitcoin miner was at least double its normal volume that day. So to me, I think that was a lot of people either dumping or it's not. I wouldn't say profit taking, but that was the day after this day. So if you just had Marathon and it's up 30%, some people might have taken profits, but that level and that for all of them to move in such perfect unity, it'd be one thing if they moved in unity because Bitcoin tanked at the same moment, but Bitcoin was on fire at that moment. Bitcoin was headed. That was the moment it was running to its new all-time high. And the Bitcoin miners were going the wrong way. So I feel like, I'm going to use the word market manipulation. Just market. Some large institution or group of institutions affected the price of the Bitcoin miners this week in a monumental way. Now, in the past, when this has happened, this is not the first time Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners have diverged. This is one of the more dramatic times, particularly since it happens to be when Bitcoin's off to the races, breaking new all-time high after new all-time high. It's very disappointing to see your Bitcoin miner red.
All right, welcome to Talkin Investing.
I think that's a part of the point, right? Drive retail investors out, bring the pain, bring the shock, bring the, right? How disheartening was it to see Bitcoin hit a new all-time high and have your Bitcoin miner that you own, tanking. So I just feel like this is a part of the plan. To me, that you got to have patience and wait for it. Some people, let's see how the poll is going. Are Bitcoin miners dead money? So 26%, about 1/4 of you think, yes, the Bitcoin miners are dead money, and you're better off investing maybe in some of these other ways to access Bitcoin. 74% say, no, Bitcoin miners are not dead money yet. I will tell you, I'm a big no. I still expect massive runs in the Bitcoin miners. Having said that,
welcome to Talkin Investing.
I can't tell you when it's going to be. I don't know when it's going to be, right? Monday looked like, and I even said on Monday, it looks like we're turning the corner. Here we go. And boom, we got smacked down. So we go from here. George, what's your answer? This was your question. Are Bitcoin miners dead money?
I don't think they are. I just think that we're just going to have to wait for it a little bit longer.
All right, welcome to Talkin
So
Investing.
this is the games that you so often talk about, how these guys play games with us. And it would seem like, to me, that's what this feels like.
Welcome to Talkin Investing.
Midway.
Because if it becomes a strategic reserve for the United States, Bitcoin, does that change the value of these companies?
Oh, I think so.
Welcome to Talkin Investing.
Yeah. So wouldn't that only increase the value of so that's what I think is going to happen. I think that they know, and somebody's like, you know what, can we ever find out who shorted it, Tom?
Investing.
And you can't really necessarily do that in real time. But you can look, and I'm speculating, but if you look at all the charts, when 10 of these companies moved at in the same minute, all of a sudden just started tanking, it became clear to me that somebody, and then you look at the volume, it was a day where all the Bitcoin miners had at least double their average volume, some of them significantly more than that. So, and on a day with that much volume, on a day where Bitcoin was on a tear, it only makes sense to me that somebody was out there shorting these, trying to make money both ways, right? Because the volatility on these, remember, these are traders' stocks. I've taken a long-term approach to this. I do think that works over time if you dollar cost average in, not financial advice. But like on weeks like this week, I suffer. My portfolio is much worse than it would have been had I taken a bunch of profits on this. Marathon and CleanSpark are two of my big positions. They were up 30% in one day. Most people would take profits on that day. So I'm just riding the storm out. And, obviously do your own due diligence, do your own thing. This is not financial advice.
All right, welcome to Talkin
Want to get to Midway, who gave us a super chat. Thank you very much. And is also a longtime member. What are your thoughts about Bitfarms' earnings call with them pushing back their 21 exahash goal by 6 months and getting rid of their 35 exahash target? I mean, I have mixed feelings on that, but I think you'll see it's kind of like I described it, I think, on the members only live stream. Clarity, even if it's bad news, I think the market looks for transparency and clarity. So that's not what I was hoping they would say. I'm certainly not surprised that they said that. It's a disappointment. That's a big miss.
All right.
They did have some other good things going on as I went through their financial statements. There was some good news, some bad news. And, I don't know. I don't know if a part of this, ditching the 35 exahash target, they are still in a hostile takeover war with, competitor Riot. So it's hard to know exactly what's going on. But, Bitfarms had a good day today. They were one of the leaders today. So I'm disappointed, but at least we got some amount of clarity. And, we'll dig more into that. But yeah, that's a big disappointment. They did say, I think they got up to 11.9 exahash from the 11.5. That's a very small amount of growth. So, we'll see. This is not at all what they said they were going to do. So I'm holding my position. I'll wait it out. And, but this now I expect that one to be the last one to move. Instead of the next one to move, I expect, with with that news, that one to be the last one to move. So we'll see. Not great news from them, but at least, you know, they can't ignore it like they did in their monthly operational update. So I guess that's all I would say. This is what I was asking them to do, and they did it. They came out and told us what's going on. It was not good news, but at least we know what's going on, or at least what their latest and greatest version of what's going on is. We never really know what's going on, do we? All right, so we'll end this first poll. Are the Bitcoin miners dead money? We pretty much finished at 3/4 say no, not dead money yet. We'll get another poll goal. And we do have, I want to get to what you talked about, the strategic reserve, because Michael Saylor talked about that, and there's some stuff going on there. You know, that's obviously not a done deal yet, but it's something that's on the table. Let's get another poll going real quickly here. All right, so the last, 20 times we asked this was a number that was way off in the distance. We are now, let's go back to the chart. We're now at 91,000. We got to almost 93,500. So we got the rest of it. We got half a month left. Is Bitcoin going to get to 100,000 here in November? Is this the month that Bitcoin hits 100,000? And I will tell you, if you take the last 2 4-year cycles, and, all these things aren't going to be identical. There's many differences from cycle to cycle and many similarities from cycle to cycle. But in the last couple of cycles, it took 215 days and 235 days for Bitcoin to recapture its previous all-time high and then start to have its parabolic run. So we're right. November would be that time. By the end of November would be that time frame. And it does seem like Bitcoin is starting to take off. If I look at, this 1-day chart, you can see this was back on November 5th. So in the last 10 days, we've had a few days of consolidation here, but this is since we broke out of this 7-month pattern, we're up almost 35% in 10 days. So that's a nice run. Does that continue? We're on the brink of 100,000, but could there be a pullback? Because, we are overbought. Bitcoin's overbought on the daily RSI. All the Bitcoin miners got to a point where they were very overbought. They're starting to reset themselves. We're going to look at a couple of those to just FYI. Edmund saying, Tom, if you don't want to be disappointed, just buy MicroStrategy. So this one's for you, Edmund. I'll go to MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy was up 4% today. MicroStrategy was up 25% for the week. So I'm about to go show you what everything else did for the week. Up 25% for the week and up 439% year to date, destroying all of the Bitcoin miners. So this has dramatically outperformed all the Bitcoin miners so far this year. So let's just go to the chart of Bitcoin miners this week. And remember, this was Monday, right? Most things up double digits. We had 5 of these up 20+%, 2 30%. Yet by the end of the week, this is what things looked like. So HUT, which by the way did have, just from a financial presentation, they had the best results in just from a P&L standpoint, from an income statement standpoint. They did better. They had better gross profit. They have a more diversified income stream. They're not very reliant on Bitcoin mining at all. So they had a really nice week, up 29%. BitDeer, who was it? Let's go back. Oh, I'm not finding it. I'm sorry that I forgot who it was, but one of our members pointed out that BitDeer was having a great week. BitDeer was up 24%. So that's the same as MicroStrategy. So you got HUT up 29, BitDeer up 24, MicroStrategy up 24, Bitcoin up 19%. This is one of the best weeks in the history of Bitcoin. So to sit here and look at a chart where you've got one of the best weeks in the history of Bitcoin, and most of the Bitcoin miners finished in the red. And this takes into account that as of the end of the day, Monday, some of these things were up 30%. CleanSpark was up 30% on Monday. They ended the week up 3%. So while Bitcoin continued its run to a new all-time high, CleanSpark was down 27% from Tuesday to Friday. And you can see, the Core Scientific and TeraWolf, these two have been the leaders year to date, so they got beat up the most, down 7%. Cypher down 7%. TeraWolf down 13%. Some of this is just, that natural balancing out. They were so far ahead of everybody else, but this is a week, Bitcoin up 19%, being one of the best weeks it's ever had, and hitting a new all-time high, destroying its old all-time high. There were times in the past on weeks like this where the Bitcoin miners were up 30, 40, 50, 60%. And, now all of a sudden you have most of them at either zero or in the red. So to me, this was just a very disturbingly bad week for the Bitcoin miners. I'm not extrapolating this out. I'm not saying this is how things are going to go for the Bitcoin miners from now on. I don't believe they're dead money. I think they'll make this ground up, but I will say, I think it might take some patience because there could still be more short-term pain to come for the Bitcoin miners. So I don't like to trade in and out of them. I just play through the pain, and if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. To me, everything still makes sense that these have a lot of room to the upside. So, I keep saying I'm not going to buy unless something dramatic happens. I dollar cost averaged in for years and years. I got to way past what I considered full positions, but there's a few of these that I'm looking at that are starting to get interesting to me again. And, if there keeps being a divergence between what Bitcoin's doing, or if Bitcoin has a pullback and the Bitcoin miners pull back with it, some of these might get back to a number that are interesting to me. I'm looking at, and again, not financial advice, but to me, a couple that jump out. I'm looking at iron as, and I have a position in irons, and I'm way up in my iron position. So it's hard to buy. It's hard to dollar cost average in when you're up a lot, but if it's a buying opportunity, it's a buying opportunity. Sometimes that's when you're down, sometimes it's when you're up. So I'm looking at that one. Bitfarms, I'm going to hold on Bitfarms. That's one of my big positions, and I'm really, they're at a price that seems ridiculous. Their market cap seems ridiculous, but you know what? Based on what they're doing right now, I feel like I gotta wait. So if I miss the boat, I already have what I considered to be more than a full position on that. I think CleanSpark had a nice pullback. If that got beat up some more, I might be interested in some more CleanSpark as well. So, those are just a couple that jump out at me. If Bitcoin has a nice pullback, I may add, I will tell you guys, I'm playing Bitcoin through IBIT, which is BlackRock's ETF. So way back when I was doing BitX, that for several reasons was not working out well for me. So I switched over to IBIT. And so, that might be something that I would be interested in buying some more of if we get the right pullback. But, I don't want to buy more at $91,000. Having said that, I don't think we're anywhere near what our new all-time high is going to be for this cycle. But you like to buy on a pullback, or at least I do. Richard is saying the two fastest horses are CleanSpark and Marathon. So those are two of my big positions. I like both of those positions. CleanSpark and Marathon are by far, if we take a look at, we'll go to this chart. If we look at them, this is the number of Bitcoin each Bitcoin miner mined in the month of October. So Marathon mined 717, CleanSpark mined 665. Nobody's even close to those two. Nobody's really going to compete with those two between now and the end of the year in my mind. Now, Iris Energy, IREN, is at 21 exahash. They're looking to get to 31 exahash. If they get to 31 exahash, we'll see what happens. Riot's looking to get to 36 or 37 exahash, but so is CleanSpark, and they're just a more efficient miner. CleanSpark mines more per exahash by far than its competitors here, Marathon and Riot on either side of them, but IREN's very efficient as far as number of Bitcoin per exahash as well. So we'll see, but there's a pretty big drop off. These two guys are out in front by a mile. So, and I like what both of these companies are doing. That's my personal opinion. Sorry, George is on another call. As you guys know, this is a super busy time for George based on all the hurricane damage that happened in his neighborhood. And Richard is saying, bearish sideways next week. The TA is showing, but I'd prefer to be in than out. So that's my thing. I won't trade. I look at all the technicals, but I've been holding for a long time. My exit strategy is not for quite some time. So Damien said Monday was epic. Monday was epic, but the rest of this week was just pure, straight, just disappointment after disappointment. Tuesday was just a devastating disappointment for me. You try not to get emotional about this stuff. I didn't make any trades. I didn't panic sell. I didn't buy. It was just a day where I had to grin and bear it. And it was just what should have been a great day for my portfolio was a bad day. I do think there will be another day somewhere in the future that's the opposite. Today, we had a really nice rally at the end of the day. 11 of the 12 stocks that we follow, and MicroStrategy makes 13. So 12 of the 13 ended up in the green today. A lot of these stocks were red for a lot of the day. So, we had a nice rally in Bitcoin at the end of the day. The Bitcoin miners finished the week at least on a little bit of an up note, but I can't call this a good week for the Bitcoin miners. This performance is just, you won't see Bitcoin up 19% in a week very many times. This is a monstrous, outsized, huge move to the upside. So, I don't want to belabor it, which I already am. These Bitcoin miners being in the red is a monumental disappointment on one of the best weeks Bitcoin's ever had since it came into existence. I'm not saying it's the best week it's ever had, but up 19%, crushing its previous all-time high, hitting a new all-time high. I mean, everything going the right way. And the Bitcoin miners just on Tuesday, somebody stepped in and turned things in the other direction for the Bitcoin miners. So we'll see what happens. And, if I take a look, I'll go to CleanSpark, for instance. And most of these look the same. So I'm looking at this purple line is the daily RSI. You're going to see on Monday and Tuesday, which were both green days here. And for CleanSpark, the daily RSI, we were overbought. So we were at around 75. Now that did not concern me because if you go back in time, you'll see the Bitcoin miners here back in February, we got up to 82. Back in December of 2023, we got to 86. We got to almost 90 back in July of 2023. So 75 is not all that concerning when Bitcoin is running and hitting new all-time highs and in one of its parabolic moments. So, this was not a concern to me. But now the one thing I will say is, I had identified this trading range a long time ago, the bottom of which for me was somewhere just around $14 and the top of which was at $24, but really at around $20 in my opinion. So $14 to $20 I had been considering, a reasonable trading range for CleanSpark. It did jump back into that range. And you'll see today, even though a candle wicked way below that, it did finish the day. It pulled up to $21. Or sorry, that's Marathon. It pulled up to $14.03. And so you can see that right here. And $13.91 is the bottom of my trading range. So I feel like that held on. So I do think it's possible, we move back up. But you can see we spent like, a month or two way under its trading range. So to me, it was way undervalued here. I had been saying anything under $12 for CleanSpark is, in my opinion, crazy time. So, we're back down to 14. So, 14 is not where I was looking to buy, considering, just a couple of weeks ago, we were in the 9s. So as much as this was an awful week and it was a big pullback from its highs, I think we got to wait for it. But I expect, as we look at CleanSpark one day, I would expect by the time we get to Bitcoin 100,000, we're going to take out this previous high of the year 2024, which was somewhere just under $24. And then, most of these charts look the same. If you look at Marathon, same thing. We had a big jump up on Monday, was that spectacular day, and then just down, 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 down the rest of the week, but still near the top of this trading range that, that I had identified as what I felt like where it should be trading. And the same thing, Monday and Tuesday, we were at about 75 on the daily RSI. So that's where most of these are. That's where CleanSpark was. That's where Marathon was. If we go to Riot, we see Riot got up to 78 on the daily RSI. Iron got up to, let's see, what is this? Just about 70. So TerraWolf up to 75. So again, a lot of times it can even run higher than that. But there were some signals that, especially after a monster day in one direction with 20% moves, 25% moves, 30% moves, there was some clues that we were overbought. But the same thing was true of Bitcoin, but it kept running. So if we look at Bitcoin, right, Bitcoin was much higher. Bitcoin was at 84 on Monday, 83 on Tuesday, and then it went back to 84 on Wednesday, yet all the Bitcoin miners tanked. So, we did pull back and get a little bit of a reset. It's hard to call this a reset. This is still overbought in a big way at 75. But, we've talked about this many times. When Bitcoin runs, to get into the mid 80s is nothing. That's a common occurrence. You can see back in February, we got up to 87. Back in October, we got back up to 87, almost 88. So, that's what Bitcoin does when it has these big runs. This was 89. So, we can hit 90 on the daily RSI when Bitcoin's doing its thing and having one of these runs. So I don't know. I think there's still reason to be optimistic that Bitcoin, and let's take a look at what you guys think here, because we have a poll going. Bitcoin to 100K in November. So almost 80%, 79% think yes, Bitcoin, so we're about $8,500 away from that. We got about $6,500 away from that on Tuesday. So George, we're looking it's almost your 80-20 rule. We're at 79% think Bitcoin's going to get 100,000 in November. What do you think?
See how we can stop it now? Things are just too in motion. Just too many great things rotating into Bitcoin, and XRP that just hit 92 cents.
XRP on fire. Let's jump over to XRP for a second.
92.
XRP jumps 17%, and this was yesterday, so we've even run up from there. Outperforms the rest of the market. And then traders think 120K for Bitcoin target is still in play. We believe that the underlying strength in Bitcoin represents a systemic shift in the market in anticipation of Trump's return to office. This is QCP Capital Traders said on Friday. The market is now pricing in a 66% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut in the December FOMC meeting. I will tell you that's down from Thursday's 83. And if we go look right now, it's down again. So Jerome Powell came out and said some things that, they're in no hurry. Now, all of a sudden, a 25 basis point rate cut in the December meeting is down to 58% chance here with the Fed watch tool in the futures. This was up 1 month ago. This was at 86%. So this was getting priced in near a certainty, and now it's getting close to 50-50. I do believe they should do this next 25 basis point rate cut. I think the only way they won't do that is if they start to see some bad data points in inflation. But we got our CPI. It came in pretty much as expected. So I think if those things still happen, I think we're going to get this 25 basis points. There's other reasons I think it's important that the Fed, is slow and steady and continues to lower interest rates. I don't think yet it's time to take a meeting off, in my opinion. We're over 100 likes. Thank you, everybody. So if you're new or if you have not yet, smash the like button. If you could do us a great big favor, now we're going to shoot for 200. It does help the live stream out in real time. Bitcoin is on fire. We'll go back to let me go back to my chart here. So you can see Bitcoin up 19% this week. We had 2 Bitcoin miners outperform. The Bitcoin miners, other than that, did not have a good week. So I should point out, Marathon didn't have a terrible week. It was up 9%. That's not what you expect in a week. Bitcoin's up 19% and Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. Because the reality is here, the math is, 2 things are happening at the same time. We just got everybody's financial statements and they were all awful, right? Lost $20 million, lost $100 million, lost $300 million. So we knew this. I've been talking about this for months. This is going to be their worst financial statements. This quarter ended September 30th. All 3 months were after the halving, and all 3 months were in that 7-month window where Bitcoin was going sideways and downwards. So the price of Bitcoin was being suppressed. The reward got cut in half. The network was growing and growing. So this was the worst economics that we're going to see for Bitcoin for a long time. We already know the fourth quarter is going to be better because here we are halfway through the fourth quarter and we got Bitcoin up 50% from where it was in the third quarter. So the financial statements, and a lot of these companies have grown their exahash. They're mining more Bitcoin and, they're getting a lot more per Bitcoin. So in addition to that, for the companies that hodl, instead of having to take a huge write-down like they had to do in the third quarter because the price of Bitcoin went down, they're going to get a huge write-up. So you're going to see one of the biggest flips from the quarter ended September 30th, which is the results we're getting right now. And it may be one of the reasons, that we saw so much red, although I still will tell you, it looks to me like some small group of people, either one large institution or whatever, somebody started and the algorithms kicked in and just followed along, whatever the case may be. Everything started to get shorted this week on Tuesday, and it was just a dismal week for the Bitcoin miners. But my point is, I think we're in the middle of 2 things happening. We're getting historical data. That's old news. Everybody should have already known that. We've been talking about that for months on this channel. But what's happening now, the economics are, I think we're going to see most of the Bitcoin miners, many of the Bitcoin miners actually have a gap profit in the fourth quarter. So, some of these companies that went from losing, some of these companies lost $300 million, $400 million. So if they can turn that around to, a profit in the fourth quarter, you would think that would, help spur the run in these Bitcoin miners. The Bitcoin miners do run later than Bitcoin. That has always been the case, but there's no making excuses for a week like this. This week was disgusting, in my opinion, from the Bitcoin miner standpoint. The altcoins ran like the wind. So George already pointed out XRP, so let's go to the map. If we look at the last 7 days, you got Dogecoin, which was even higher than this, but it's still up 91% in the last 7 days. XRP's up 60% in the last 7 days. So, congratulations, George. You are a longtime holder of XRP, so you reaped the benefits of that. Cardano up.
What was it? No, was it November, August, September, when I was doing that loan? And I said, I'm moving a large amount of money into the altcoins. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
It has been a great investment, guys.
You got into altcoins at a great time.
Yeah,
Cardano.
that was the time.
50% up on Cardano, Sui 54%. That's been, Solano, let's see, was up only 8%, but Solano and Sui have been the big winners on the year. But on the week, Dogecoin, on the week and on the month, Dogecoin was the big winner by far, but Pepe up 105%. I mean, these are big, big numbers. And I don't even know that, I guess you could say this kicks off the beginning of alt season, but I think that the run has not even barely started for a lot of these altcoins. So, if you feel like you just missed a lot of activity here, yes, you did. But, I wouldn't necessarily buy Dogecoin at this number, although that could continue running like crazy. I'm not a Dogecoin person. There's no fundamentals under Dogecoin other than Elon Musk. But there's a lot of these others that are good projects that I think have a long, long way to run still. So that's my personal opinion. We'll see what happens. And I think Bitcoin has a long way to run. And Bitcoin over the last 7 days is up still 19%.
Are you ready for the 10K update?
Yeah, it's going to be a disappointment because this, we went from the last time we looked, it was just down, down, down. Let's take a look.
You know what's crazy? It almost got to the exact same number that it got to in, was it August or March? I forgot what day it was.
Yeah, back when it ran up and almost got back to our goal.
The exact same point. Because it got to $7,200 and now it's at $6,000. So it's not terrible, but
moving in the wrong direction.
A long time.
Moving in the wrong direction on a week where, again, Bitcoin hit a new all-time high. So that, that's not the action we're looking for. Cleanspark to 50 is saying, oh, I just lost it. Let me see if I can find it again. Fell behind in the chat.
When is the next Fed meeting, Tom?
December. So let's look. December 13th, maybe. December 18th is the next Fed meeting. And, we're starting to have a coin toss here as to whether or not they're going to lower rates. I believe they will lower rates. So we'll close out this poll. We got Bitcoin to 100K in November. 77% say yes. I say yes. And I will tell everybody, I changed my answer. 2 weeks ago, I was a no on this. So, but, then Bitcoin ran up 19% in 1 week. So I have flipped from a no to a yes. I'm a believer now. What about you?
I'm the one that was bullish. Look at my background, Tom. I think I was the first one that put this up. I started putting this up back in June or July.
Yeah.
But now everybody's like, oh, look, he's got a thing that's going to 100K. I knew it was going to 100K.
Bitcoin to 100K. The people believe 76% say yes.
And for anybody that's new to crypto, the reason I believe so much in Bitcoin isn't anything to do with the word Bitcoin. It has to do with the word Satoshis. When we start referring to our Bitcoin as Satoshis, we have won. That's when it's going to get fun. Satoshi. So there's 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin. That is the lowest unit of measurement that you can trade of a Bitcoin. So to George's point, if Bitcoin can get to $1 million, people are going to start talking about how many Satoshis they bought. Because not a lot of people are going to be buying a Bitcoin at that point. All right, so just a quick poll. And then I'll show you an article while we're doing this. Will the Fed lower interest rates in December meeting? And I just want to get to... So this article came out yesterday. Fed Chair Jerome Powell's hawkish comments throw some cold water on crypto. A December rate cut from the U.S. Central Bank might not be a sure thing as previously thought. Let's see. Quote, the economy is not sending any signals that we need to. This was a quote from Jerome Powell.
The economy is not sending any signals that we need to be in a hurry to lower rates, said Powell in prepared remarks at a Dallas conference. The strength we are currently seeing in the economy gives us the ability to approach our decisions carefully. So, that's not very inspiring as to, having some certainty as to whether or not there's going to be a rate cut in the December meeting. I still do believe they got to be methodical here. They came out of the gate at 50. Everybody thought they were going to do a 50 and then another 50. They dropped it to a 50 and a 25. I don't think they're going to go 50, 25, 0. I think they run some risks in the other direction if they do that. So for me, I do think we're going to get a 25 basis point rate cut in the December 18th meeting. But obviously, the market is pretty split on this. So Sour Melon Gaming thank you for being a member. Thanks for the super chat. Sour Melon Gaming is saying Bitcoin will touch 110K by the end of the year. Mark this, Tom. So mark it down in red. Bitcoin 110K by the end of the year. Well, maybe that can be our next poll. Because, we're knocking on the door of 100 here, and almost, I think we ended up 76% thought we would get to 100 in November. So we'll leave this open for another minute. Will the Fed lower interest rates? Our poll is tracking not too different than the Fed Watch tool. Leave that open for another minute and then get to another poll.
Thinking by the 20th of January, I think right around 120 is what I'm thinking, 120 to 125. And there's a big reason why I say that, and that's the vote in December of the 10th for Microsoft. I think if that vote is a yes, I think that's going to change everybody's opinion of the top 6 largest companies, and I think they will move into Bitcoin.
Absolutely. If Microsoft starts buying Bitcoin, we're going to see another huge pump. I agree with that, George.
I mean, in that 120 to 125 could be low too, by the way.
Because, somebody like Elon Musk and Tesla bought Bitcoin a while back. That was a gigantic pump for Bitcoin, but, he's an outside the box person, and that is not the same thing as, Microsoft's the 3rd biggest company in the world. They've been, I think they're the 3rd biggest. They've been one of the top 3 largest companies in the world for the last 25 years. This is a blue chip traditional stock at this point. So, if they jump into Bitcoin, that gives cover for the entire market. I think your point is, George, to start to move into. And that doesn't mean everybody goes all in. All we're looking to do is there's still a million doors that need to be opened where there's people are at 0% Bitcoin. So, that would open a lot of doors.
And remember, this is still the thing that I can't even imagine what the Bitcoin price is going to go to, Tom. When they start talking about no taxes on gains on crypto, if you can pass that, you have, I think, literally trillions of dollars sitting on the sidelines that they want to put into the United States.
Yeah, you're going to see.
And that would be a great way to do it.
That would be right. And I don't know, I think that's going to be hard to pass in my opinion. But if it does, that's an even bigger game changer. So there's a lot of potential gigantic catalysts sitting out there. Some of them are going to happen. Which ones, we don't know yet, but some of them are going to happen. But let me go to one, and this is in response to Edmund was saying, Tom, watch the YouTube video with Michael Saylor at Cantor Fitzgerald this week. It's 55 minutes long, but well worth the time. So I haven't watched that, and so I will watch that. And I want to that'll lead me to something that Michael Saylor talked about that George was talking about earlier. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve has precedent in other big U.S. government purchases. This from Michael Saylor. Quote, the Trump administration understands it. I think Senator Loomis understands it. That's why it will happen. That's a quote from Saylor during a presentation at an event in Miami Tuesday. Michael Saylor believes the U.S. government should and will build a strategic reserve of Bitcoin. If a bill by Senator Cynthia Loomis becomes law, it would be the greatest deal of the 21st century, he said. So she's looking to having the U.S. government buy 1 million Bitcoin. I think the administration talked about creating a reserve of 5%, which is basically roughly 1 million Bitcoin. So they're on the same page. The idea of strategic stockpiling isn't new, Saylor pointed out. The government has made many of such moves in the past. So I do think there's a very reasonable chance that we will start stockpiling Bitcoin. And the other thing is, the 200,000 that we're sitting on, Trump came right out and said at the Bitcoin conference, he will not sell any of that. And subsequently, he has said that he would plan to buy a lot more. So again, this hasn't happened yet. We don't know if it's going to happen, but there's just catalyst after catalyst after catalyst out there that not every single one of these has to happen for Bitcoin to go, to numbers that maybe are way beyond where I thought it was going to go in this cycle. My target for this cycle has been $150,000. I've long said that we don't, if it's 140, I'm not going to be shocked. If it's 180, I'm not going to be shocked. There was a time where if it was 250, I was going to be shocked. I think, now I would say that's not true anymore. If some of these things start to happen, who knows where? I'll tell you what, and thank you to George for gifting another 10 memberships.
Well, it's just funny. What's going on is Chris can never get a free membership.
Time after time after time. Let's see if it happens. Man.
It's too late. He didn't get one.
That is just crazy.
Isn't it? I just get a kick out of it.
All right. Welcome to Talkin Investing.
So will the Fed lower interest rates in December meeting? This was just a quick poll. Thank you for voting. We did get 70 votes on this. So 69%, almost 70% say yes.
All right, welcome to Talkin
That's
Investing.
a little bit higher than the Fed Watch tool, which is at 58%. I say yes to that. What's your thoughts, George? Are they going to lower? We can get a 25 basis point interest reduction.
I think it's more of the.
All right,
I think it's more of the Trump effect, and I think it will definitely go down.
So we're getting our.
I think. What? Here's what's crazy. I have nothing to do with the election, nothing to do with politics or anything. But I deal with the insurance industry, and we had an insurance company that was just been a jerk to us this whole year. And we had a meeting with them today.
All right, welcome to
totally different meeting. I mean, totally different meeting, Tom. I mean, they were willing to help. They weren't causing problems, and it's just insane.
So you think this is a byproduct of the election results?
100%, absolutely. And that's what blows my mind.
So I'm going to ask a question now in retrospect that we asked many times going in.
Welcome to Talkin Investing.
And what's that?
Post it in 1 second. Do you think the election had a positive effect on Bitcoin? And I'm going to start the poll. And what I mean by that is, obviously we've had a huge run up. Was that going to happen either way? Or did that happen because of the results of the election?
Gary Gensler.
Right. And yeah, that should be the next poll. When's Gary Gensler's last day? So now, what's interesting.
He won't make it until he'll leave beforehand.
We have been, going up to the election. I'm going to do this right now, actually. Give me a second. Just bringing something up. Okay. So several times, basically every stream going into the election, we were taking a look at the betting markets, poly market, to see, the polls were saying one thing, the betting line was saying something else. And, the betting line was saying that Trump was going to win the election. And it was getting pretty heavy in their favor. I will say, subsequent to this election, the FBI has now raided the owner of Poly Market.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I think this is similar to a Binance situation. And correct me if I'm wrong, so please fact check me on this. I think if you're in the United States, you're not allowed to use this. But, obviously we all know that VPNs exist and people in the United States are using this. So I think what they're doing is the same type of thing, saying, listen, you guys aren't doing your know your customer well enough to weed out, and protect, the laws in the United States. So I think that's what's going on here. But this is a site we've looked at all the time, and now, maybe they got a little problem going on now.
Why is this illegal, by the way? Why is this illegal?
It's considered gambling.
Why is it considered gambling?
I mean, I'll take you this, for instance, because this is one we actually looked at on the channel. This is, for those of you who don't know or do know or don't care or do care, Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight tonight. Mike Tyson's been fighting since I was in high school, which was a long time ago. Actually, me and Mike and George are all about the same age. And he's fighting Jake Paul, who's 30 years younger than us. So here you go. You can basically bet on the fight. And by the way, Jake Paul's a gigantic betting favorite to win this fight, which shocks me. So do you think the election had a positive effect on Bitcoin? 96% of the people, now 95% said yes. Do we need to? Are you boxing it out over there, George?
Yeah. Here is the only reason I give it to Mike. I didn't know this, but what's his name? Paul is a cruiserweight.
This will be his, you are right. This will be his first fight ever as a heavyweight. He put on 20 pounds. He's never fought over 200 pounds.
Right. And so that reason alone, come on.
Right, because Mike Tyson is a guy who usually walks around. He's got to lose a lot of weight to get down to 230 to fight. He walks around between 280 and 300 pounds. Whereas Jake Paul walks around, at 200 pounds. So they are very different. They don't look, if they stand next to each other, and sorry for those of you, we won't get too sidetracked into this. When they stand next to each other, you don't see that. You can't see that. But just Tyson's just a very massive person. His legs are just super strong. I'm the old guy, so I'm rooting for the old guy. I also do think he's going to knock him out in the first round. That's my opinion.
All of his fights are staged.
You think it's fixed?
I think it's fixed, yeah.
I think, if anybody saw the weigh-in and the conference, I think that was all some staged nonsense. They do a lot of stuff, but I don't think this fight's fixed. But obviously, boxing, for those of you historically who have followed boxing, there have long been allegations, rumors, and sometimes proof that fights have been fixed and rigged and all that kind of stuff. I think this is going to be a real fight, but we're going to know. I think by watching, we'll know.
Second, Jackie. I'll jump back on here in a few minutes, guys.
All right, George, we'll see you in a few. So this, and Edmund is saying, Tom, Robinhood had election betting market. You're right, Edmund. And I don't know why. You have DraftKings. That's betting. That's allowed here in the U.S. You have FanDuel. That's betting. That's allowed in the U.S. Robinhood was allowed to, put money down on the election. So I'm just not sure why, certain certain can and certain can't. I don't get it. So that's a good point, Edmund. So this was another article, and then I want to take a look at the ETF flows, because I think that tells us a lot. I think there's a lot more buying ahead. US ETF inflows hit $4.7 billion over 6 days. Now, this came out yesterday, and they didn't know yesterday's numbers, which were negative. As Bitcoin becomes the 7th largest asset in the world. So we were looking this, I think on the members only stream, we were looking at the largest assets in the world. And one of the members pointed out, where Bitcoin would be on the list. So I'm just going to quickly bring that up as well, because this is something we did look at on the channel. Let's take a look. Okay, so here you go. In first place by 100 miles, gold. And gold has been on a tear this year. Not the last few days necessarily, but gold went from like $12.5 trillion to $17 trillion asset. This is by a mile. The biggest asset on earth is gold. NVDA is now the largest company in the world. This is a recent development. This happened last week. You're going to see Apple is just behind it at number 2 or number 3 as far as largest assets. Microsoft also over $3 trillion. So you have $3+ trillion companies. Then it drops all the way down to there's two $2 trillion companies. And then in 7th place, you've got Bitcoin. So I think Bitcoin by the end of this bull market could jump all the way, potentially all the way up to 2nd place. Right? It would have to double from here. If it doubles from here, Bitcoin will be the 2nd largest asset in the world. So that is going to be my next poll right now. All right. Will Bitcoin become the 2nd largest asset in the world in 2025 and 2026? And you're going to see it doesn't even need to double. It's at about 1.8 trillion right now. And, maybe these will continue to go up. So it probably needs to double. So is Bitcoin going to double? Right? Is Bitcoin going to get to 180,000 and become the 2nd largest asset in the world? And you'll notice, here's silver. Bitcoin's larger than silver. It's larger than Saudi Aramco. These are big companies. Silver, Tesla's now over $1 billion. Berkshire Hathaway is now over $1 billion. These two are new additions to, $1 trillion, to the $1 trillion club. So you've got 12 assets on Earth that are worth $1 trillion or more. And in 7th place is Bitcoin, with a legit shot to potentially get to 2nd place. So we're going to have to wait, obviously, quite a while to see what happens here. But we've seen Bitcoin move up this list. I mean, they were under $1 billion, not too long ago, which would have put them in, they were probably somewhere around 14th place. They've jumped up to 7th. Can they jump up to 2nd? Someday, Bitcoin purists believe that it will flip gold. I don't think we're anywhere near that day yet. That's in my mind, that's decades away. Gold is a $17 trillion asset. Bitcoin has a long way to go to get to that. But I do think that's potentially in the cards as well. We've passed a tipping point here in my mind where, you're not putting the genie back in the bottle, and it's already the 7th largest asset on Earth. And most of the money out there still has not even begun to dip their toe into the water of buying Bitcoin. So the pools of money left to enter this arena are monstrous. So I think a lot of growth ahead. I think a lot of growth left in this cycle that we're in. And then, going on into the future, I'm not Michael Saylor bullish. I don't think Bitcoin's getting to 30 or 40 million dollars of Bitcoin or whatever his prediction was for the year 2050. But, I do think it could rival gold, and it could pass gold in the next 10 or 15 years, in my opinion. And Bernie's saying Bitcoin will hit 150,000 by the end of January. So that would be very good news. Everybody here, I think, would be a very happy camper if Bitcoin runs up and hits 150,000 by the end of January. And I think going back to this chart, they're not going to be able to suppress the Bitcoin miners. If Bitcoin gets to 100, 120, and certainly at 150,000, I think you're going to see the Bitcoin miners make big moves. I want to do the year to date for the Bitcoin miners. So let's flip over here. So you'll see we're now back to 8 Bitcoin miners are green on the year. BitDigital's up 1% on the year. 2 of these flipped from, Hive and Marathon were green earlier in the week after Monday's action, and they went back in the red. This is year to date. So Bitcoin's up 118% year to date. There's only 2 companies beating that. Core Scientific's up 185%. TeraWulf's up 199%. And for Edmund, we are going to remind everybody that at the same time, MicroStrategy's up 439%. So I'll show that again. The best Bitcoin miners up 199%. MicroStrategy's up 438% in that same time frame. So you've got 3 companies that have been fantastic investments, better than straight up investing in Bitcoin. All the rest of the Bitcoin miners lag behind. HUT is catching up to Bitcoin. HUT has had a monster run, and it's really got very little, if anything, to do with their Bitcoin mining. Their Bitcoin mining is not the reason for this run. This is all about their other services. Let me see if I can find. I think I left this open. Where I was looking for. So if you look, digital asset mining, $11 million. Managed services, $20 million. So their Bitcoin mining is only $11.6 million out of their $43 million of revenue. Most of the other Bitcoin miners, Core Scientific being an exception, and BitDigital being an exception, almost all the other Bitcoin miners, somewhere between 90 and 100% of their revenue is in mining Bitcoin. For HUT 8, it's more like less than 25% of their revenue is from mining Bitcoin, and almost an insignificant amount of their gross profit prior to depreciation is from mining Bitcoin. It's this managed services. You'll see managed services revenue, $20 million. Cost of revenue managed services, $2.8 million. That is their success equation right there. So I don't know how much growth they can get. So I don't know how big they can get. I'm not sure what the upside here is on HUT 8. So that's still a little bit of the mystery to me. But if you go all the way down to the bottom, you'll see they did earn, this is GAAP earnings of 1 cent per share. So net income per share, net income, $647,000. So, basically break even, basically zero. But at a time where all the Bitcoin miners lost, a lot of money. Here, TeraWulf, which is let me go to, I think I have this open. So we'll go back here. TeraWulf's the best performing Bitcoin miner on this list by a mile. Well, not by a mile, but they are the best performing Bitcoiner on this list. And if you look at their financial statements, right, TeraWulf had revenue of $27 million. That's far less than HUT had. Expenses of $42 million, right? TeraWulf lost $23 million. And I'm not criticizing them, right? This is what we expected out of Q3. Q3, the numbers just did not work in the Bitcoin miners' favor. I think I think TeraWulf is going to show a profit in Q4. So, they will, I think things will get dramatically better for the Bitcoin miners. I don't know if they're going to get dramatically better for HUT 8. So while HUT 8 has been on a great run, I'm less certain as to what the future holds. But with Bitcoin already up 50% from these revenue numbers, I think you're going to see a lot of these Bitcoin mining companies, and we'll look at one other chart here. So this is the HODL as of October 31st. You've got Marathon at 20. This is from their monthly operational updates. 27,500 Bitcoin Marathon has on their balance sheet. Riot has almost 11,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. HUT still has that 9,000 Bitcoin. I think they had 9,104 Bitcoin when they merged a year ago. They're within 6 Bitcoin of that right now. So they have managed to hold the Bitcoin they have. No, they're not able to add to this HODL currently, but they've kept this. This is a big stack. CleanSpark's at 8,700. When the November numbers come out, in all likelihood, unless something strange happens, CleanSpark, which is HODLing 99% of the Bitcoin, CleanSpark and Riot are HODLing 99% of their Bitcoin. Marathon's HODLing 100% of their Bitcoin and buying more Bitcoin on top of that. So CleanSpark will move into third place, but you've got 4 companies that have significant HODLs. As the price of Bitcoin's already up 50% on average from Q3 to Q4, these companies are going to get gigantic markups on their income statements. And, so they're going to be highly profitable, not to mention the fact that, right, obviously their gross margins go up dramatically as the price of Bitcoin goes up. And if some of the things that we're talking about here happen, Bitcoin running up to 100,000, we had somebody in the stream talking about Bitcoin running up to 150,000 in January, things are just going to get better and better. So if you look at just the 1 month of October, this is how many Bitcoin each company added. So you can see there's really only 3 companies adding a significant amount to their HODL position. Marathon 720, CleanSpark 652, Riot 501. Again, that's over 100% and 99% and 99%. There are some other companies. BitDigital added 50, Bitfarms added 44. But, these guys are crawling. These guys are off to the races. So we're going to see if that HODL position, as Bitcoin hits these bigger numbers, to me, in my mind, these companies' stocks should be getting rewarded in a big way. Now, obviously, this week we saw some weird stuff go on and something else altogether happen. But in the future, to me, in my mind, the companies that have these big stacks of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, as Bitcoin continues to run, their companies are just simply worth more. So will Bitcoin become the second largest asset in the world in 2025/2026? That's basically this time around, this bull market run. And we got 72% saying yes, it will pass everything except for gold. Gold obviously is at $17 trillion. So, it's not likely to pass that anytime soon. But let's just quickly do this. This is almost kind of a silly question because it's a 20-year time frame, and trying to project out even 6 months or a year can be difficult. Projecting 20 years, who knows? But will Bitcoin pass gold and become the largest asset sometime in the next 20 years? So at some point here, 20 years is a lot of halvings away. Is Bitcoin going to actually catch up to gold and pass gold? There are obviously a lot of very high-profile people that believe that is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be 20 years, but I think that Bitcoin will flip gold at some point. So the question is it going to be 20 years? Is it going to be 30 years? I don't know. And we'll see. Obviously, a lot of things have to happen between now and then to get to those kind of numbers. Speaking of which, we're at 161 likes. So anybody who hasn't, if you would be so kind as to smash the like button, we're going for 200 likes. It does help the live stream in real time, and it helps the channel a lot. So thank you to everybody who has smashed the like button. Thanks to everybody who has showed up. Special thanks to all the members. Just taking a moment here to just show appreciation to everybody. George did say he will be back. I think he was just switching from his house to his car. We'll see if he gets back. He was with us for most of the stream. Okay, let's see what else. So one of the other things that I take a look at is, you know, this is Google Trends. Probably a lot of you are familiar with this. You can basically type in a word and see how it's trending compared to, you know, over time. So this is the word Bitcoin over the last 12 months. So we had been talking about this. I don't know if I did it on the Friday live stream, but on the members only stream, we've talked about this several times. This was flatlining at, you know, a low. We were just in a lull. Bitcoin wasn't going anywhere. The Bitcoin miners weren't going anywhere. And now you can see in the last few weeks, this has taken off. It's now at 100%, meaning it's at its highest point in the last 12 months. So the interest in Bitcoin has jumped huge, which we can see because Bitcoin, if we go to this weekly chart or the daily chart, you know, 10 days ago, Bitcoin was at $67,000. We're at $91,000. We got to $93,000. That's a $25,000 run in Bitcoin in, you know, less than 2 weeks. You don't, that could be the biggest, from a dollar standpoint, that could be the biggest run ever in Bitcoin. Over $25,000, about 38% in a very short period of time. So obviously we have a renewed interest in Bitcoin. I think you're going to see, you know, Google Trends was telling us this, you know, as much as a week ago. And then if I switch this to Bitcoin miners, you're going to see we're still not back to where we were in March. So March was the highest level of interest in Bitcoin miners. We're now at 76% of that. So we're starting to get the retail investors back in. I think, you know, the big push on Monday included the retail investors, but somebody bigger than, you know, when an institution or a group of institutions or the algorithm kicks in for whatever reason, you know, it can overwhelm the retail investors. But I do think it's a good sign. You're seeing retail investors move in. I think this trend will continue. So this is one of the things that big institutions probably saw and didn't like, and they want to discourage retail investors and get them out of this space so, you know, they can make money. These, you know, these, like we've said many times, can be trading stocks, and a lot of the institutions like to make money on the way up, on the way down, on the way up, on the way down. And I think that's what we're seeing this week. You know, we really got, if you are a long-term holder of Bitcoin, you got punished this week. You did. This was, again, to go back to the week over week. If you held HUT, you're up 29%. If you held BitDeer, you're up 24%. Those were very good weeks. But even those two numbers, on a week where Bitcoin was up 19%, you expect a lot more than that out of your Bitcoin miners. Marathon and CleanSpark were at least green, but very disappointing results, considering Marathon and CleanSpark were the two companies that on Monday alone were up 30%. So as Bitcoin continued to run the rest of the week, these just kept giving back, and all, you know, we have two at zero, Bitfarms and BitDigital, and then everything else was red on the week. So this was a tough week to hold Bitcoin miners. You know, hopefully we went through the fact that a lot of the popular altcoins ran huge this week. So if you held those, that helped balance out your portfolio. Bitcoin itself ran huge this week, so that helped balance out. And so, but to me, I felt like this was a disappointing week. You know, I got to call it like I see it. I'm still very bullish on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners long term. Our first poll of the day was, are the Bitcoin miners dead money? And let's see if I can get back to that. Overwhelmingly, people said no, it was not. I think that finished at 76% said no, the Bitcoin miners are not dead money. And I agree with that. I still think there's big big runs ahead for a lot of these Bitcoin miners. I happen to hold 5, but obviously none of this is financial advice. So, you know, you guys do you. But I think there's a lot of room left to the upside. Very disappointed in the Bitcoin miners this week. I can't stress that enough. And here's just a fun story. This is either fun or depressing, whichever way you want to look at it, because, you know, we all could have done the same thing. This OG Bitcoin investor just turned $120 into $178 million. So this is this is somebody from back in the day. The user held Bitcoin from when it was worth 6 cents all the way up to $90,000. A Bitcoin whale moved 2,000 Bitcoin worth $178 million to Coinbase after holding their stash since 2010. So can you imagine $120 turning into $178 million? I mean, it's a feel-good story, but, you know, for anybody who may have had Bitcoin pass through their hands over the last 14 years and bought a pizza with it or whatever else the case may be, you know, I know a lot of people are kicking themselves, but, you know, who knew? This person apparently knew. And who knows how much more Bitcoin they had. They moved 2,000 of them over for $178 million. Who knows? They could have a lot more than that. So, just a miscellaneous story. Just looking to see if there's any other big stories that I missed. But I think I pretty much hit everything on my list. So, I guess I will wrap it up. I want to thank everybody very much. So this last poll, will Bitcoin pass gold and become the largest asset in the next 20 years? 65% or almost 2/3 of you think that yes, Bitcoin will pass gold to become the largest asset in the world. Now, the one thing that they don't count is housing, which I think is unquantifiable as an asset class. But so, you know, that notwithstanding, if it can pass gold, then it will become the largest asset class on Earth. I think we're decades away from that, but I think, I don't know if it's 20 years, but I do think the answer to that ultimately is yes. Just my personal opinion. 65% of you agree. So a special thanks to all of our members for joining us. A special thanks to anybody who gave us a super chat. Special thanks to all of the subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, if you follow Bitcoin, if you follow the Bitcoin miners, this is what we do on this channel. We talk about this every Friday. We do a live stream with the world. Every Tuesday, we do a live stream with members only. So I know George was nice enough to give away 60 memberships today. So if you're interested, you can check that out as well. So I want to thank everybody. I hope everybody has a great weekend. For those of you interested, Mike Tyson's fighting on Netflix tonight. I'm not affiliated with that in any way, shape, or form. I'm just mentioning what my plans are for this Friday night. So I hope everybody has a great Friday night. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Let's hope our portfolios and hope the Bitcoin miners have a better week and rebound next week. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great weekend.